I'm Georgia Symonds, and this is the Spoon Meets podcast, the ultimate breakfast companion. Spoon exists to give everyone a better breakfast. They believe the first thing you eat should be the best thing you eat. In this podcast, I'll be sitting down for a tasty seasonal breakfast with experts, thought leaders, and creative minds who are shaping the future of food. We are interested to find out all about their seemingly mundane, but somehow fascinating morning routines. Because morning routines really can make a difference. Let's get stuck in. Eve, good morning. How are you?
Good. Yeah, it's really nice to be here and part of the new podcast with
I
Spoon.
know.
Very exciting.
So nice to have you here. How's your morning been so far?
Well, I did get a puppy in July, so there's been a bit of kind of morning antics there, as it were. And actually, I've got her with me, so if you hear little yelps or barks, there you go. That's Luna.
So cute.
Yeah.
So cute, so cute. So this morning we are having a delicious chocolate orange porridge. So I've tried to be quite seasonal with it. So I have used orange because I think that is kind of like a seasonal product.
Yeah.
But what's your kind of breakfast of choice normally in the mornings?
Well, sometimes I don't actually necessarily have breakfast, so I do a little bit of intermittent fasting, not a lot, but just a little bit. Well, I say intermittent fasting, but I normally have a matcha. So I normally start my day with a matcha. I sort of feel like it's not as hard and fast as a coffee, although I do love a coffee. And then, my breakfast, I'm a savoury girl, so I don't tend to have a lot of sweet foods, although I have been using some of the Spoon granola with some natural yogurt, so that would be probably my kind of sweet option, as it were. So I do try to kind of rotate around my breakfast because I think that's really important as well, and I think it's one that we tend to have the same over and over and over, and even mixing and matching some things up, so using different frozen fruits or switching between sort of kefir and natural yogurt. So I do kind of variations of those types of things, but I do love my eggs as well. So
really, really good. I think variety is so key in terms of like when people are like, oh, I'm trying to like be healthy, but I'm like getting bored of it. I'm like, it's probably because you've picked the one thing that you're going to have, which is going to be healthy, and then you probably get really bored of it really easily. So I love rotating.
Yeah, definitely.
And so what's your kind of like morning routine? Like, let's say, because this podcast is all about like celebrating mornings.
So typically I do some type of movement generally. I have got back into the gym because I kind of gave it a bit of a break for various reasons. But my kind of go-to is yoga, and I've been practicing that since I was, over 30 years now, 16. So I usually do some type of yoga or meditative practice. That's kind of my first thing to do, and my matcha. And I do think that really sets me up for the day. So whether normally that would have been before going for a morning walk, but now it's after that. So I do start the day, obviously, priorities, taking the little puppy
first. But I agree, I'm so religious when it comes to like working out in the morning. I think it just sets you up for the day, and I think it's so good. And what made you switch to matcha rather than having coffee in the morning?
Do you know, it was actually interesting because I have a podcast called The Wellness Breakdown that I host with Rose Ferguson, and the premise of it is that we take wellness trends and we essentially trial them on ourselves, and so we challenge each other. So she had challenged me to give up caffeine because she knew that I was a bit of I was a passionate coffee drinker. I didn't drink loads of it. I've never been somebody that's drinking 5+ cups a day, but probably averaging at least 2. And she challenged me to give it up. And I just thought, oh my God, it's going to be such a breeze. I don't need coffee that much. But honestly, it was such a big whoa when I gave it up, like the headaches and the fatigue. And I realized how much fake energy it had given me. So after that, I sort of thought, well, do you know, I never want to be reliant on anything like that again, because it is a drug essentially. And so then I went to decaf. I've since reintroduced it a little bit. I don't know if that's coinciding with having a puppy.
Yeah.
But and sometimes there are some really great decafs out there, but I haven't found them as tasty and flavoursome, because I don't drink it for the buzz, I drink it for the flavour actually.
But
matcha doesn't have that same sort of jittery effect. effect because the caffeine in it's very different, and it also contains L-theanine, which has a naturally calmative effect, and it's super, I mean, depending on where you buy your matcha, because actually that can massively differ as well. So I do buy the ceremonial grade matcha that is the proper bright green stuff that has all the antioxidants, all the good things in it. And I sort of feel like I do get some energy from it, but not in a way that's kind of jittery in the way that I do from caffeine. So that was the reason for the switch. And I've just sort of not gone back, although I have been drinking more coffee, I'd say, in the last 2 months. So like caffeinated coffee, which is nice, but I can feel if I drink more than say 1 cup a day, there is that low level I feel now of not anxiety, but that fizzy energy.
Yeah, completely agree. I'm definitely a big 1 coffee a day person. I struggle to have no caffeine. Like I completely know what you mean in terms of like the headaches. Yeah. Because I think, I can't remember for what reason, but I wasn't allowed to have anything that was going to stain my teeth for a while. So that meant no coffee, no green tea,
no red wine,
all the good things in life. So I was like, okay, so that meant no caffeine basically. So I struggled so much, and I couldn't believe how bad the headaches were. Yeah. And all I have is 1 cup a day. Yeah. I do have a strong coffee, like I have a cappuccino, or like if I make it myself, I'll have like a double shot coffee. Yeah. So I guess it is quite a strong one, but I can't have any more than that because I get the shakes and the jitters. But yeah, it's crazy how your body does rely on it. Yeah. And I wake up in the morning and I'm so excited for that 1 cup. But yeah, I guess I have definitely tried matcha a lot more recently. And for me, it would be if I'm going out for a coffee with a friend, but I've already had my coffee, I'd be like, oh, I'll have a matcha instead. But I also have a podcast called Catch Ups in My Kitchen, and I had Marissa from Perfect Ted on the podcast. Okay. And she challenged me to have like just a week or even a month, I can't remember what it was now, on matcha. I haven't done it yet, but I need to, just to see how I feel. I would be really intrigued, but yeah, I'm not sure. I need to build up the courage to do it. So movement is key for you. Matcha is key for you. What time do you wake up in the morning? Is it the same every morning? Does it change?
I mean, I am generally, and having the pub, I am generally a morning person. I like getting up and getting the day started. I like to have sort of achieved a few things by say 9 o'clock before I start my working day, because I am self-employed, so I do have to employ my own routine in a way. So yeah, I guess it depends, but like if I'm going out and doing say a Pilates class or whatever, then I would get up a bit earlier, but generally anywhere between 6 to 7 o'clock is my normal waking up time. And to be honest, it doesn't massively differ on the weekend. I'm not somebody, I would struggle to sleep until 10, 11 o'clock. I think my brain would be like, I'm missing the day type of thing.
I'm the same.
I'd far rather be a 9 o'clock in bed tucked up person, which is not particularly sexy, is it? But
no, but I'm the same. Completely the same.
I do love that morning light, and I've done a lot of work in terms of circadian rhythms, and I actually did a really lovely retreat with somebody last year, all based around circadian rhythms, and I understand how important light is, particularly that morning light, and we don't really get it as much in London, although I think you have a beautiful view here anyway. But yeah, it's so important for helping regulate that sleep-wake cycle, because I think modern technology and our lifestyles really sort of juxtapose that. So I think we have to be even more conscientious to do the things that bring the body into that natural rhythm. So for me, it's like I like to wake up with morning light, and as soon as I can see that light. So yeah, light's really important for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually, because recently I've noticed that I get up, I go straight to the gym, I come back and my curtains are still pulled, and I'm like, I should have done that first thing, just to like get that morning. Although it's still dark kind of in the mornings at the moment, but like still I think it's quite nice to do that. And it's interesting that your mornings don't really change, because one of my questions was going to be like, is your morning routine different on the weekend than it would be in the week? But I guess although you wake up at a similar time, do your mornings consist of different kind of rituals?
I mean, it is slightly late. I mean, I wouldn't be getting up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday or whatever. So it is definitely, I would say, push it back an hour or so. Yeah. So it is more relaxed in that way, because I don't feel like I need to get certain things done before starting the workday. So I'd say, everything sort of gets pushed back a lot more. And I do use that for like, household things like doing the washing and all that kind of
the mundane
chore things.
Chores. Yeah, completely.
But so it is, I wouldn't say it is hugely. I mean, on the weekends, I would say, because I'm getting up later, I tend to, on one of those days, meet with friends for brunch. We've got some amazing spots nearby in where I live in Shepherd's Bush. So I would say that I might not necessarily have breakfast on the days that I'm having a brunch.
Yeah, no,
so then it would be a slower start, waking up a bit later, maybe go for a bit of a longer walk, and that type of thing.
A bit slower.
Yeah. Definitely.
And how do you find the intermittent fasting? I mean, I know it's not fasting as such, but like pushing breakfast a bit later, how do you find that?
I mean, I do think that I think it's about being intuitive to one's own satiety cue. So I wouldn't say that I do it consistently, and I wouldn't say that I have a particular pattern with it. It's just sometimes how I feel. So also, if I'm having something like yogurt and a bit of the spoon granola or whatever, then I would have that earlier. But I don't normally feel hungry for something like eggs until about 10:30, 11. I certainly don't push it to that kind of like 16, 8, because I do understand how that can impact on hormonal health generally. If you're somebody that's already quite cortisol driven, and I think I naturally am. I think I sort of sit more in that fight or flight as a natural versus the rest. So I need to do lots of things that push me into the rest and digest. And with fasting, sometimes when you push it too far, it can almost drive more of that adrenaline. So I think it's a fine balance there. But I do think some fasting, I mean, the research shows that even 12 hours fasting overnight has benefits, and I certainly encourage that with my clients in my practice. But depending on the person, I don't think we need to be pushing it to real extremes and real, like I said, 16 plus hours necessarily. So I think it's about really working more intuitively. For me, it's working more intuitively with that.
And I guess making it sustainable, like sometimes 16 hours just isn't possible. You might wake up and you're hungry, so eat. Yeah,
exactly. And depending on what I've been doing in the week and around my menstrual cycles, I certainly would not be fasting in and around that week or even the days leading up to it. It's just being sensitive to our hormones, really.
Yeah.
I think most people want a binary answer with fasting, like, is it good or bad? And I'm like, depends.
Yeah.
So, and I'd say that's true for all of us and at different points in our life. So,
definitely. And so do you have any other like non-negotiables in your morning routine that you kind of have to do in the day? Are you quite a structured person? Obviously you're self-employed, so are there any other non-negotiables that you do that maybe in the morning that set you up for the day, or kind of throughout the day that are kind of like non-negotiable for you?
I mean, first thing in the morning, I do have my probiotics and a cup of green tea, not together because the hot water would kill the little microbes off, but that's like a mainstay for me, that I do that first thing in the morning and then have the matcha slightly later. And then I do normally set out, I mean, I have quite sort of structured calendar in terms of what I'm doing in the day, and I think seeing that or looking at that first thing and seeing where my day is sort of heading, I think is a really good way. So there's always a kind of reflective 5 to 10 minutes about working out and mentally getting myself in the right headspace about what I'm doing in that day.
Fine. So you're quite a planner, you're quite organised.
I think you have to be when you're self-employed, really, because otherwise it could get really kind of chaotic. And I do have quite different facets to my business. So I have my clinical practice, but then I write and I do brand consultancy. So I can be spinning many plates, as it were. So I have to be really strict in my timings. And I've also just started a master's in psychotherapy. That's a whole day out of the week and the reading on top of that. So which is a lot. I have to make sure that I'm, making adequate time for each of those things. So one doesn't, it's not being negatively influenced by taking on other things.
No, definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. We're now going to enjoy our breakfast, this little chocolate orange,
delicious
chocolate granola. Very, very, very delicious. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.